yesterday we saw that a wise person is wise because the person knows the nature of I, Atma. And because of knowing the nature of Atma, generally the way we engage in the world is, I think that I am very, very small and I cannot stand that smallness. So I engage in the world through my desires, right? And I try to get maximum things that I desire in order to be happy. So generally what we have concluded is, everybody else, the unwise, has concluded that I am this little tiny human being. And nobody can stand that smallness. So that means the whole premise for our engagement in the world is through acquiring things, through being with people that we love, through going through some conducive, pleasurable situations. I want to get rid of the smallness that I feel. This is how, when it goes on and on and on. And the objects that we try so hard to connect ourselves to objects, to people, to situations. And when those actually come, they do produce some happiness, but then it is what? Fleeting. So by the time you've accomplished one thing, then the other thing emerges, right? And that's why you keep going on. And you think more of people that you like, more of power, more of money, more of vacations will solve the problem. So that means you try to keep on magnifying and increasing the duration of what you call are the pleasurable things. This way, Upanishads say there is no end. This is why we are unwise. Because we are in the wrong direction. What we are searching for is lasting happiness, and we have concluded that that source of happiness is what? In objects, in people, in situations. That's what makes us chase those things and try to manipulate the world in a way that you want everything according to your likes and dislikes. And through this process, there is no solution to lasting happiness. The wise person has figured it out. Then the question is, where do I find the lasting happiness that I am searching for? The source of happiness, according to Upanishad, is not that inner person that you think, generally said, oh, the source of happiness is not outside, but it is inside. It's not in that inside person, because inside person feels small. That's why that inside person is searching everywhere for happiness. The source of happiness is the Swarupa of Atma, the real nature of Atma, which is always free from any limitation. So what is the real nature of Atma? Wise person has figured it out. So this is why you and I, we think, generally people think that Atma is small. That is what we call the inner. Inner means only confined to the body and mind. According to the vision of Upanishad, your Atma is not confined to the body and mind. Don't make it so small. It is like saying that the space is only, this entire space which is all pervasive. Now, this glass space thinks that I'm only this much and depriving itself of what? The space which is all pervasive. The reality about space is the space confined to this glass? No. By confining it, what is the loss? That space which is all pervasive, you are making it what? so limited, the magnitude of limitations that you attribute to this space is not even funny. Then this space wants to be calm, it wants to be, retaining the idea that I'm only this much. It enters into all practices to have the experience of bigness. Is this what spirituality is? No. This space has to recognize the fact that I'm not small in the first place. I'm not confined to the glass in the first place. That is a paradigm shift. It's a very, very significant paradigm shift. And that paradigm shift is not based on some manipulation of the body and mind. It is based on a fact, reality. The space doesn't have to do huge meditation practices and, to free itself from the limitation. It doesn't even have to imagine that there are two glasses, right? And one glass has clear water and the other glass has contaminated water. Right? Now, the question is, it's true that one glass has clean water, the other glass has contaminated water. The question is, why that is true, does the space get contaminated? Does it? Where is the pollution? In the water. The place is mixed up. Now the space which is in contaminated water starts thinking, I am contaminated, the space is contaminated. That's a logical error. Because the space never gets contaminated. The water is contaminated, true, reality. So that means there is a very fundamental misplacement about who I am. What Vedanta points out is the fact that you are trying to clean awareness, that you are trying to detach it from the world, means you haven't understood the nature of awareness. Because you keep on mixing it up with all the things that it is not. Clarity of knowledge means that nothing which appears to limit or contaminate the space actually is really limiting or contaminating the space. Neither it is also dividing the space. That is knowledge. Right? So now, this knowledge, if it is the reality, it is not a matter of keeping on reminding yourself all the time, repeating, I'm that awareness, I'm that awareness, I'm that awareness, I'm not. Like if I'm transacting with you, imagine my mind is not listening to you, is constantly repeating to itself, I'm awareness, I'm awareness, I'm awareness. What kind of life it would be? Huh? Distracted. Completely distracted. You can't do this. Is why Namita is saying all these spiritual people, they act funny. They act funny because she says, luckily here it is not. She says, you behave very normally. So, and all of us behave normally. Right? Because in everything, every spiritual practice, somehow you are told that you constantly have to kind of remind yourself, and you constantly have to abide in this vision. Constantly abiding in the vision doesn't mean that it has to be constantly repeating actively in your mind. Please understand that. Once you have understood the space is free from contamination, it is free from smallness, do you need to keep reminding yourself? But that knowledge is available to you whenever you want. That is knowledge. Every knowledge is like that. Once you understand E is equal to mc squared, you need to keep on repeating E is equal to mc squared. Every time you deal with the table, do you have to remind, oh no, this table is just nothing but energy. Do you have to do it? No. That will make you a loony. That's why spiritual people are as normal as anybody can get. It's all about understanding things clearly. Once I've understood that this table is nothing but, with this equation it's nothing but energy. But at the same time, right, there is a form. There is clarity. Neither I'm denying the presence of the table, nor I take that table to be a tangible reality which is, actually nothing but energy. That is what we talk when we talk about Vedanta. It's a very intricate process. You need a subtle mind to even begin to capture what Vedanta is talking about. Because the mind, when there is a confusion in mind, you mix it up, you mix up the meaning of the word chit or awareness with so many things, and the minute you mix it up and make it small, you have what? Made it so limited from what it is. Right? So when we talk about awareness, we are not talking about you being aware of, let's say, this tree. That is happening where my being aware of the tree. Where is it happening? In the mind. So that means that there is your eyes which capture the form. The signals are sent from eyes to the brain processes it, and then you say it is the tree. Right? So then there is a thought that this is the tree. We are not talking about that, which is, then you can say, okay, now so this awareness that we are talking about is not tree awareness, the thought. We are talking about that tree awareness will shift and it will become next minute mountain awareness. There is one thing which is invariable, and that is the awareness, which does not, while thinking of the tree, it does not take the form of a tree. Because imagine if that awareness takes the form of a tree, that tree will always stick to it. Does the tree stick to the awareness? Tree that you think of, does it stick to the awareness? If it got stuck to the awareness, the next time when I think of you, I will think of the tree and I will think of you. So that means, then the third time, if I'm thinking about the table, then it will be tree, and table. So everything will be like what? The very fact that right now your mind is completely free of anything that you have thought of shows you something very important. That awareness never, by thinking about things, it is always free. It doesn't actually take the form. Then, through spiritual practices, you want to always experience that awareness which is free from any attributes. Do you need to do it? Do you? You don't need to do it. Why? Because it's already there. It's already there. Whether you think of a thought or whether you don't think of a thought, awareness is never touched. Fact. You don't need to physically detach it. Please understand. We are not trying to ask you to detach the awareness from the world.
What happens when you go to sleep?
Then, what happens when you go to sleep is, for that time that you are in deep When your mind is resolved, all the four faculties which I told you are not available to you. Your emotions, your buddhi, your memories, and your eye sense. None of these four which belong to the mind are available to you.
It goes into seed form.
It goes into exactly unmanifest form. That is the time that you, the person, the awareness, experientially is there without the characteristics of your mind.
But even in dreams, we feel I had a nightmare, so there's a me. Nightmare means there was an emotion, I was scared.
So that means he is talking about deep sleep, you are talking about the dream. Right?
So different stage.
So there's a different stage. Right? In the dream state, what happens is you are, so in the waking stage, you please understand, right? You are connected with the physical body and you are connected with the mind, and while you are connected with the physical body and mind, the awareness is always there. Right? In the dream, what happens? Are you aware of your physical body? No. This is why when you have a lot of pain, the doctors give you painkiller. When they give you painkiller, what happens? It puts you to sleep. The minute you go to sleep, what happens to all the physical pain that is there? It all goes. Right? So that means it is disconnecting that the awareness, of the body. Right? In the dream state, what happens is you are not connected to the physical body, but you are connected to the subtle body. Connected to the subtle body in the sense that you create your whole world, dream world. Okay? You are sleeping in Thailand, but you are dreaming of Italy. So that means you imagine yourself, walking in Italy, sitting in a cafe, eating pizza, limoncello ice cream. So your imagination and all these things are happening.
There is one state of consciousness.
Sorry, no. The fourth is what we call the invariable law. That is Sat. The problem with Vedanta is people try to connect to the fourth state thinking that is different from all this. What Vedanta says is that is invariable in all three. While going through all three, it is free. That is the key.
This Turiya they call.
Turiya they call, and that is that invariable presence. It's not some state. Right? So in dream world, you have the mind, but the physical, the body, connection with physical body is not there. Then in the deep sleep, the connection with what? Both the physical body and the mind is also not there. That's why in deep sleep, you don't actively think, I am sleeping well. You're just gone. Then when you wake up, what happens? You come back. Exactly. Body and mind. Exactly.
So at that point in time, where is your awareness gone to?
So your awareness is very much there, but the mind has resolved because the mind is the one which does active thinking.
So you've not traveled anywhere?
So awareness is something which is invariable presence, because of which you come to know the activities of the physical forms, the activities of the mind, and even when the body and mind are resolved, the awareness is there. When the physical form is there, awareness is there. When the mind is working and the physical body is resolved, awareness is there. When the body and mind both are resolved, awareness is still there. It is present everywhere and not touched by anything. The very fact that 1 minute I'm thinking about the tree, next minute I can completely get rid of the tree. What does it show me? That my awareness has not actually become what? Attached to the tree in the first place. I don't need to detach it. It's never attached. It's never in. That's knowledge.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that is knowledge. Otherwise, through practices, you keep on trying to detach your awareness. That means you are on a trip. Right? And that's what makes you insane. Because imagine that you have to go to work and you have to perform. And you think constantly, you have to keep telling yourself, I'm detached, I have to detach because this is not me, this is not me. And you will become mad. All you have to do is to understand why I'm engaging in all of this. Awareness is free. Right? So this is the key. And Turiya that you're talking about is what the Upanishads do is use your experiences to show you that you change. You think, who are you? You talk about all the things, sadness, happiness, this physical form. Upanishads tell, if that is really the truth about yourself, how is it? It always should stick to you. The very fact that in the dream, the awareness of the physical body goes away totally and still you find yourself, what does it show? None of the characteristics of the physical body stick to that awareness. Because if they were part of that awareness, you will never get rid of it.
So musician go to sleep at night, and then gets up in the morning.
Yeah.
Still he remains a musician.
Exactly. Because
it goes into the seed form.
exactly. See, what happens is the mind is there. The mind has memories. And that is there. In the deep sleep, the whole mind is resolved experientially. So when you wake up, you get back all your functions back. But these varying states give you an insight. What happens is the memory you attribute to awareness. Now, if I'm showing you, even without memory you exist, you come to know, oh my God, memory is one function. I'm not confined to those memories. So Upanishads use your own experiences to make you see where you are making a mistake. Okay, so this is what we call the awareness. Now, drik. Now, today, Shona yesterday asked me a very good question, because this was my question when I was also studying. Right? She told me something very interesting. She says, yeah, you're showing me that this space is not confined to this glass, true. And the space is never contaminated by what is inside, true. True. One undivided space. This little glass space, is it part of the whole space? Is it part? It is the whole. Very good. Right? Because part means that space is cut into pieces. We are not talking about part. We are talking about one whole, as Neeta says. Right? Now, she asked me an interesting question. It's true that it's with reference to space, but how can you use this example and establish, that's a very good question, establish that awareness is like that? Very good question, right? Is because space is like that, therefore, can you use that logic? No, you can't use that logic. It would be a faulty logic. So that means I have to prove more. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful question. Right? The first logic that I gave you is, once you say, I'm independent of the body, mind, senses, right? Then you cannot give any attribute to that awareness which will enable you to say, my awareness is like this and your awareness is like this. If if I want to make a statement there are two awarenesses, I will say, how do you conclude that there are two? There is some characteristic that this awareness enjoys which is different from the characteristic that other awareness enjoys. Right? Now, why do you conclude that we are many? Because we see many bodies and we see many different minds. So we conclude awarenesses are many. I am many. There are many I ams. Now I have made you see that this body that you think is you is actually not you. The mind that you think that you are is not you. So now, which attribute will you give to the awareness? Can you give any attribute? Can you call it pink? Can you call it sad? Can you call it happy? These are attributes of what?
Emotion state, emotion.
Exactly.
You can't say my awareness.
Exactly. Because in order for you to prove to me that there are two awarenesses, you have to show me what is the characteristic of your awareness which is distinct from the characteristic of my awareness. But everything that you distinguish by remains at the level of body and mind, which I have already told you are not. Therefore, this is unshakable logic. But it is still not enough. It is still not enough, and in order to really understand that how this awareness is undivided, we need to ask a second question. And the second question is, what is the relationship between Drik and Drishya? Drik is the seer and the Drishya is the seen. The seer, yesterday we saw, is awareness unqualified by anything which is seen. And what is seen is not only all the different bodies but this body. What is seen is not only all the different minds but this mind. It includes everything. Right? So the seen category includes what?
All objects.
All objects. All objects plus time and space in which all the objects exist. Right? So now, imagine that awareness is all pervasive, right? And space, time and all objects are completely different from it. Then, you would have, can you have the vision of oneness? Because what awareness is not is so many things. Time, space and all objects, all distinct from awareness. Awareness again will become limited. Right? Please understand that. I can't call it limitless. I can remove it from this limitation, but I can't call it limitless because time is other than awareness, space is other than awareness, every object is other than awareness. Awareness will become limited. What is the vision of Vedanta? Awareness is Brahman, big without any limits, limitlessly big. So now I need to re-understand the relationship between the seer and the seen. Very important. I will give you an example. Now, we think there is one thing which is awareness and the other thing which is object of awareness, and let's take this table. Right? Two things. Now, Vedanta does a magic. It tells, you think that this table is something which is real. Vedanta says, okay, let's examine the reality of this table. Yes, I can't call table an illusion because it is a place where I can put my papers, I can put my glass, I can do everything. It's not an illusion. But in terms of reality, this table let's say this is a stone. Right? So if from one standpoint I can call it table, from the other standpoint I can call it a stone. Because if I take out the stone, if entire table is nothing but made up of stone, if I take out the stone, what will there remain any object called the table? No. You have two names. You have the name of a table and you have a name stone. But actually, so it appears to be two, but upon examination, what is it? It's only one thing. What is it? Stone. If it is only stone, why do I have the name table?
Because the intention has come through. The intention of the person who fashioned it has come through.
Exactly. That means it corresponds to wonderful, the form and the function.
Name and form.
Exactly. The name table comes from the form that this stone takes, right, and the function it serves. But in terms of reality, there are no two things. I have two things. I have two names. One is stone, the other one is table. Do they really make two? No. In terms of reality, how many things? Only one, which is the stone. But you have a name, which is table, in terms of what? The shape that that stone takes and the function that it serves. That's why that stone, if it is appearing somewhere else and serving some different function, that same stone will have what name? Exactly. Statue. You have all these different names. These names refer to what? The form and the function. In terms of the content, how many things are there? One. Right? So now, let's look that this table is nothing but stone. Then is stone the reality? What is a stone? If you go further. This is where quantum physics helps us. What Vedanta has been using as simple examples of pot and clay, the relationship between pot and clay. Now we can use quantum physics to extend it further. Right? Now this stone itself is nothing but what? Molecules. Right? So now let us examine the relationship between the stone and molecules. Can the stone exist without molecules? No. Do molecules depend upon the stone to exist? No. Right? So now, if you really shift vision further, all that is here is all these molecules running around. They appear to be stone, and then within the stone, that shape, so you have names, you have now three names. You have table, you have stone, you have molecules, but from one standpoint you have three names, but from the other standpoint, what is more fundamental? If I count molecules, the other two forms are just from a standpoint. From the standpoint of a form and a function. They are not non-existent, please understand. Because if you say they are non-existent, then you think, oh, they are just like, illusion. They are not illusion. Now, the molecules themselves are nothing but what? Atoms. Now you have four names. one object, 4 names: table, stone, molecules, atoms. Are there 4 things? If you take atom, then all the other 3 what? Get accounted for. The atom, when it is configured in a certain way, it appears as stone. That stone is further modified to become a table. But in terms of reality, you keep on seeing what? Names and forms. Then you further name and form, name and form, name and form. How far do you go? How far does quantum physics go? Up to atoms, particles,
energy.
Sorry.
Finally to energy, right?
Yeah. So then you can say that it actually becomes, something which is non-tangible. Because at the particle physics level, there is no tangibility to anything. What they say is, these are experiments in quantum physics, so we are very blessed to have this discipline. We can use it to substantiate what Vedanta is talking about. At the level of the quantum level, there is no tangibility. So one thing can behave like a particle if you want to weigh the mass. And it will behave like a wave if you want to measure the speed. So that means there is no real object, it actually depends upon the intention of the observer. So the tangibility, the reality that we give to all these objects, we think that they are really, really true. Actually they become intangible. What you call is energy. Right? But the thing is, they become just a concept. Nothing tangible about it. Quantum physics cannot go further because they don't know what. So they keep on looking for smaller and more subtle matters. This is where Vedanta comes and says, yeah, you can go infinitely into these different forms. This is nothing but that, this is nothing but that, this is nothing but that. But where does it all end? It ends in the subtle thing which is a concept. For any concept to exist, you need what? Awareness. So, initially you think that this awareness is one thing and the table is an object of awareness. Now, what have you understood? It is not your or mine awareness, please understand. Right? Because the minute you say it is your awareness, it becomes like,
Separate awareness.
then it is very dangerous because you start to think that I am like, the creator of this molecules and,
Awareness is on the table.
Exactly. So that was Namaz's question yesterday. We think that the awareness is only in living beings.
But you said there is one awareness.
Exactly.
But how is there one awareness when awareness is still localized?
No, it's not localized. It is free. So now let us see this relationship. Right? What is the relationship? The relationship between the drik, awareness, and drishya, the object of awareness, in this case, the table, is, while the table is not independent of awareness, awareness appearing in the form of table is always free from the limitation of the table. One is called satyam, other one is called mithya. Mithya is defined as a dependent reality. Satyam is defined as independent reality. What is the relationship between Satyam and Mithya? The table cannot exist without the stone. But the stone doesn't need to be a table. It can exist without being a table. So while appearing as the table, it is free from tableness. What has dimensions, height, width, and all of that? The table has. Are those dimensions intrinsic part of the stone? No. That's why you can use this stone to sculpt something totally different. Being in and through, it is free from it. Awareness, without the presence of awareness, there is no, the tiniest particles. Without the presence of those particles, the particles combine to become atoms. The atoms combine with different permutations and combinations to produce the world. The same combination of atom and particles, with different permutations and combinations, becomes what? Different things of the world.
This is how the world has been done, with intelligent plan.
Absolutely. So that means the world is the arrangement. Start with atoms, start with the planets, the sun, the moon. What is it? Just exactly. Different arrangements of atoms and particles. The mountain, the rivers.
This what he understood that in deeper sense in Surya Avastha, every rishis have given different names to the Surya. There are many names for the Surya in the sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is as a part of that they are doing in Upanishad.
See, what is
because Surya has got 100 names.
Yeah.
So every sage has seen in awareness a different form of Surya.
That's true. But the forms are too many, infinite forms. What you have to understand is the relationship between awareness and any form. The form cannot exist without awareness. Awareness is independent of the form.
That time, whatever he has seen the awareness
Exactly.
done with the quantum mechanics and physics.
Exactly. Okay, time. We have yet to come to time.
On the same point, if you can say wrongly that this is my mind or my body or my, if you can make a segregation there, aside from the basic fault in that, then why, on what grounds can we say that my awareness is not limited to what my senses are able to see or what is tangible to me?
This is what.
Why are we saying no, it's a universal? How can we say it's a universal?
This is what I'm saying. The whole universe cannot separate it because there is no second thing in the universe. The whole thing collapses in awareness. It is Satyam and Mithya relationship.
Yes, but as far as it's limited to me,
Where is
as
you?
far as
Yeah, see the body itself.
in that fault, if you're limiting my body and my senses to me, then my awareness of things is limited. Each person's is limited.
See, it's true. It depends upon which standpoint are you talking about. If you're talking about the awareness, right, from the standpoint of this as though confinement, then it is, it is something because of which you come to know different conditions of the body and mind, different conditions of the, your senses and everything. But intrinsically, where is the problem is, you think that it is confined there, where I'm showing you the whole object category, drishya category, the whole thing is mithya. It just, there are no real, one thing is to say, my awareness is independent of the body and mind. The second thing is to say, the body and mind itself has no real existence separate from awareness. Because the body and mind itself, when I look into the body, what it is nothing but, again, billions of cells. Those cells are also what? nothing but atoms and particles. The particles themselves, as I showed you, is a concept. And that concept exists in awareness. So there is no, in order to say our awarenesses are divided, then I will ask, divided by what? There has to be a second thing. What I am showing you now, Nawaz, is there are no two things. There are many names, but there is only one thing.
But just divided by separateness.
Which separateness? What is
Individual
separateness?
separateness.
No, which? This is what?
Is it body, is it mind? What are you talking about? Body, mind, otherwise?
This is what I am saying.
Yeah, so if body is
He's talking
divided,
about
our
here.
bodies are divided, our minds are divided, why do we say our awarenesses are also not divided?
Here, I am showing you, right, that there are many names, but
Basically atoms and particles, okay, so we're all the
and
same.
then atoms and particles is not, this is where physics ends, right? What remains is the concept, right? Now what I am showing you is, but please understand very carefully. Vedanta says this concept itself depends upon awareness. What does it mean? It means that I have all these different names. I have the name table, I have a name stone, I have a name molecules, I have a name atoms, I have a name which is what I call a concept, but I have only one substance, which is the awareness. If you count awareness, every addition is what? Not possible without awareness. And awareness is always free from whatever gets added to it. This is something very big. There is no second thing in this universe enjoying the same order of reality which can divide awareness. Everything collapses in awareness. Awareness is independent of everything. In order for awareness to be divided, you need different objects. What Vedanta says is there are no different objects do not exist without awareness, whereas awareness is independent of all the objects. That is a different thing. This is how you say ekam eva advitiyam. One without the second. When there is, the division is possible when there are two. What I am showing is, if you count names and forms, there are many. But if you count the substance, there is only one. There is no second. Where is the question of division? Okay. It is like saying, you see, for example, pot, right? And then you see thousands of pots. So where is our attention generally? On the form. On the form pot. If I look at the form, how many forms are there? Many. But if I look at the substance, clay, how many substances are there? One. Do I need to break all the pots to understand that there is nothing but clay? Do I need to break the pots? No. You don't need to do anything. You just have to shift your vision from the forms to what? The content of that form. The substance of that form.
So you're saying that awareness is there regardless of an awareness of the awareness, and and therefore you have no division.
Exactly.
That awareness of the awareness is the mind.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's not there.
Exactly.
But when we talk about awarenesses, sometimes like it's confusing because my awareness is different.
Yes, yes, yes.
That is the mind of the mind.
So
That is the mind.
Yeah, exactly.
What is
That is
the mind?
So that's why, what is the relationship now? Please understand, why do we all make this mistake, right? We all make this mistake. Let's go back to the relationship between mind and awareness. Initially I told you there are two things. Thoughts are objects and awareness is the subject. Now let's examine. What is a thought? Thought is what? Let's say I'm thinking of a tree. The tree thought,
Branches.
yeah, branches, exactly.
Trunk.
Right? So that means in that thought of a tree, what is the content of that thought?
What is memory? Memory.
The past.
That's true. But
The
the
way it's made. The shape.
so
The leaves, the green wood.
Quality of the tree.
the thought is like a pot. Imagine that thought. Can you think of anything? Can you have a thought without the presence of awareness?
No.
No. So that means thought is like a pot which has a content which is what? Exactly. The pot has a content, clay. The clay's relationship with the pot is the pot cannot exist without the clay, but the clay is independent of being a pot.
That is Satya.
Exactly. So now, the thought cannot exist without awareness, but awareness is independent of the thought. That's why when one thought goes, it remains. When the other thought comes, it remains. Right? So that means there are no two separate things, subject and object. The object, according to Vedanta, is mithya. The entire object, which is including every form, is mithya. It is forms within forms, within forms, within forms. Ultimately, it is just a concept, and that concept depends upon awareness. So awareness, as though appears as what? All these tiniest particles. Those tiniest particles combined together in different permutations and combinations to become what is varied Jagat. It includes stars, galaxies, Earth, all the species within Earth. It just manifests everything. This, all that is here is just one awareness. There is no second. If there was second, there is a question of dividing or not dividing. One thing is independently existing, the other thing is what? Has dependent existence. Mithya, Satyam and Mithya. And the relationship between Satyam and Mithya is Mithya pervades, Satyam pervades Mithya. Right? The Satyam in this particular standpoint, this stone pervades the table. Pervading it, it is free from tableness. Because intrinsically it doesn't become table, it just appears. Right? So all that is here is awareness. This is too big a thing to understand, so you are given an aid. An aid to understand this, which is your own example of your own dreams. Every night you go to sleep and you create what? You create the dream world. Dream time, dream space, dream mountains, dream sun, moon, dream places. In that dream there are many characters and you keep on interacting with them, and that produces pleasures, pains, all of this big drama is going on. This is why Vimas was saying sometimes you wake up with a nightmare. So that means the impact is too big. Okay? Now this whole dream world that you have created, where did you create it from? Your awareness. Your little awareness with your mind. The mind looks at the waking world, it creates a certain impression, and then in the dream it projects one whole world based on certain impressions, and it also carries different impressions and mixes them up all differently and creates a dream world. The entire dream world of yours is created from what? Your awareness. While becoming dream time and dream sun and dream mountain and dream characters, have you really undergone any change? No. That's why when you wake up, you don't carry the mountain with you. You don't carry the dream character with you. Every character in the dream comes from that awareness, exists in awareness, resolves in awareness, and while the dream world cannot exist without awareness, awareness is always free from every form that you see in the dream. This is reality. So that means besides awareness, your little awareness, what else is there in the dream?
Subconscious mind.
But the subconscious mind creates the dream, right? But in the dream, besides your awareness, is there any second? It's your awareness which is appearing as all these different things and forms. Where is the question of your awareness being divided by some object in the dream? Can your awareness, does any object in the dream can divide your awareness? Because there is no second, there is only one.
Explain the dogs.
Sorry?
In the drama, they play the dogs.
Yes, exactly.
The puppets.
The puppets.
Yeah, the puppets. It is like, actually, one good thing that you have to see is the movie screen.
Yeah.
You go and you watch a movie, right? What is, and you see Shah Rukh Khan and you see Aishwarya Rai and you see all these different characters and you see all these different situations that people go through, and then what they go through all these different challenges, and what sometimes you are laughing like anything, sometimes you have tears and everything. What is going on?
A drama.
There's a whole big drama going on. What is supporting the drama? A white screen. A white screen, and you think Shah Rukh Khan is running around there? What? Lights. There are lights, and the lights are projected on that white screen. What do you see? You see this whole characters and all, and you forget that blank screen without which the lights and the projections are not possible. Because you try to see the white. Imagine while the movie is going on, if I show you this is all supported by white screen and you want to visualize that white screen.
Not possible.
Not possible. If you want to experience awareness as an object, it's not possible, lovely.
You only see shadow.
You will only see characters. But what you have to do is to figure out the nature of something which is self-evident. You are given a clue and you have to figure it out. Right? So that means that awareness, the only place it is given to you is not as an object, as Surya was saying in the morning class. The only place it is given to you is what? In your buddhi as your self-evident I am.
Which enables
The whole show. Not only enables the show in your body and mind, but the entire show. Entire
and
universe.
despite every change,
Exactly. Despite, and because everything in the universe, including your body and mind and everybody else's body and mind and the stars and the whole galaxies are moving, everything is changing.
So we are actually the stream. That is the awareness
That is the awareness.
upon which everything superimposes and
Oh, yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Right? And everything that is superimposed, which includes all names and forms, where do they come from? They come from, the source is awareness. They don't exist independent of awareness. Awareness is independent of them.
So everything is awareness and awareness is everything.
So everything is not free from awareness, and awareness being everything is free from everything. Okay. Though awareness pervades every form, it is never limited by the limitation of the forms.
It's actually not the widescreen, it's actually the LCD because it plays from within.
Yeah, exactly. This is right. So all that is here is one, and this is the answer to your question, Shona. Because otherwise, I'm just getting away by just giving you some example, random example, and say, oh, awareness is like that. This is what makes it unshakable. Because I'm showing you there is no second to divide that awareness. The whole world is mithya. There are no real two categories called subject and object enjoying the same order of reality. While the object category depends upon awareness, awareness is independent of the object category.
Why don't we stop at, like we broke everything down and we stopped it at, why don't we say everything is happening?
Yeah, because see, the problem is that even the physicists, they want to know what is beyond atoms, right? So that means
But if we
that
stop at that level, it's the same
no,
thing, isn't it?
that you can't, because then it is really, they understand very well that ultimately there is no tangible thing. It is just a concept. They understand that. Then they stop there.
Okay, this concept is not taken.
Atom, they understand, they take it at the concept level, but after that they get stuck. Because then we are talking about that which is not available as an object, which is awareness. Science is based on objectifying. We are talking about the very subject being the truth of the object category.
So the difference between science and spirituality or Vedanta is that the shift from atom to
Exactly. The shift from the concept to that, the awareness, which is the truth of everything. That is the shift.
So
That is a value added.
beyond the atom and the molecule, when you say it's not, I can't be a separate concept.
Yeah.
So what is the nature of concept? It's still something tangible.
So this is why, that if you think in terms of form, you can keep on dividing it further and further. So what we do is, we make a shift when we said, okay, there is no end to that division. Where you have to focus is, the subject is the key.
So if you're saying it's the concept, what is concept? Is it energy or is it?
Exactly, it's nothing tangible, and therefore, how that concept itself, in order for it to be, it depends upon awareness. This is the value added of Vedanta.
Is that the end of our ability to analyze it?
So that means, see this whole universe that we thought is real, what Vedanta says is the whole thing collapses. And we can use
something about a God, molecule, something they discovered something.
Yes.
So they have found
But it may not be, see, I will tell you one thing, which is a very interesting thing. I'll tell you, and this is real. 2 years ago, we did a retreat. And for that retreat came a boy who is American, and he is physicist. Right? And he came from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And he came on a scholarship. He came on a scholarship, so I said, how come you got a scholarship to come to our Vedanta class? So he said that he read a scientist called Schrödinger. Okay? This Schrödinger was a contemporary of Albert Einstein. Okay? Now this Schrödinger, he said, he wrote a paper, and what he wrote is that science cannot dwell into the ultimate reality. Not available, because we are so focused on little and little and little and little, you miss the global picture. So he says, you have to look at philosophies for the truth. And then he examined all the philosophies, because philosophy is not just looking deeper and it is also having a global picture. Then he examined, with his intellect, he examined all the philosophies. And he logically showed the flaw of each of these philosophies. And then he ended the article by saying, the only philosophy which remains uncontradictable is Vedanta.
There's only two.
So he studied each and every philosophy.
So he studied,
Knowledge.
right? Then he said that that is reasoning wise it is uncontradictable. The fallacy that we get into is we take science as more true than Vedanta. In fact, if you ask a scientist, they don't know so many things. They themselves are looking for answers.
Scientific mathematician, they need easy.
Exactly. Now, this person comes because if Schrodinger says that this philosophy is uncontradictable, this guy wants to learn this philosophy, so he comes to our retreat. He listens to Vedanta and he understands very well the whole field of science is based on what? Observation. Experiments, observation. This awareness that I am talking about, as Surya keeps saying, observation means it has to belong to Drishya category, object world. What Vedanta is talking about is Drik Swarupa. Can you put your awareness under a microscope and study it? It will become an object. He understands it. He understands very well how what Vedanta says cannot be put within the science category, because the subject matter of science belongs to Drishya category. And Vedanta talks about the Drak, the seer. Now, he says, doesn't matter. He says, in science, there are two ways to prove things. One is what you call a hypothesis. Right? You take a hypothesis and then you see whether it works or not. You work down and you say, and if the hypothesis breaks down, then you have to give it up. Right? Now, how do you know that the hypothesis is something which is true or not? Again, based on observation. Now, Atma, can it be observed as an object? No. So he says that method doesn't work. But he says the science also has another methodology, which is what we call axiom. Axiom is an assumption that you take as given. And then you say, if this is given, then you work backwards. And if it is true, then everything will fall into place. So now, he wanted to take what Vedanta says as an axiom, because science is looking and there are no answers. Now he says, okay, let us take that awareness is the I, which is the basis of the entire Mithya world, when we are actually searching for some tinier object. And let's work back and see, if I take that as an example, whether it explains everything else which is unexplained so far.
So instead of breaking it down, you go up.
Exactly. You go up and you come back. If this is true, everything which is unanswered so far, it will all fall in place.
So you're just looking before and after instead. Okay.
So you assume, because here you are looking there and you said, oh, we don't know. Here you are saying, this is a solution. If this is really the reality, it should fit into the whole thing and answer everything which cannot be answered by us. This is the level of Vedanta. Don't take it as some kind of a, some teaching here and there, making loose statements and random statements, you're the whole and all.
But this is where our Rishi Munis, they went to Rishikesh, the 7 Ganges, and they investigated the whole truth.
Absolutely. Figured it all out. Figured the whole thing out.
How old is this knowledge?
This timeless knowledge. This is what we call this Sadashiva Samarabha Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Pandita. Starts with the creation, this knowledge. The key to the creation is there. Thing is, the key to the creation is so well hidden that we never look for the solution. Where is the key of the creation hidden? In your eye. Where do you look for solutions? Everywhere else.
But if you go to Florence, this library, and a lot of the Greek philosophers, they came to India to learn. They went back, and they wrote books, and it's mentioned.
True. Absolutely. A lot of Greek philosophers, if you read them, they're very close to the game and they studied this. It's Chinese, Buddhist, there are a lot
Sorry,
of
so you were saying we have actually created it all by our eyesight?
No. See, every one thing, what is the source of this knowledge? Very important. Okay? Now, one thing you have to, I'm going on, but it's, you people are asking very stimulating questions, but is your attention still there?
Yes.
Are you tired?
No,
Not yet.
You've suspended us in animation and anticipation, probably, so we might as well go on now.
Okay, might as well go on. Because Surya keeps reminding me that I go sometimes way over time. Right? So, this is last. One thing you need to understand, this is a very important question, right? The basic distinction between action and knowledge. Action is, in Sanskrit, we call it Purusha Tattva. Purusha Tattva means it is centered on my free will. I can choose to do something, not to do it, or do it differently. Knowledge, is it Purusha Tattva? It is a fact. Right? If I ask you, what is this? Do you have a choice? You want it to be what? What is the ingredient? You love apple juice. Do you have a choice here?
No.
It is already there. Water is already there. What do you have to do it? What do you have to do?
Perceive it.
Exactly. Perceive, your perception has to be in keeping with what is. That is what we call knowledge. So this is why every knowledge is Vastu Tattva. Vastu Tattva means it depends upon the object. It doesn't depend upon your free will. Right?
No, but we always give it a flavor.
No, but that is why we don't understand things clearly. Right? One second, let me explain. Right? It's not about our giving a flavor, because for a long time humanity believed that time and space is absolute. And within this time and space which is absolute, every object exists. So that means objects keep on changing, but the time and space remains absolute. Einstein, during his discovery, one of this aha moments, he figured out that time and space is also relative. He himself was so surprised. It's not he was willing or he was wanting the time and space to be, or flavoring, adding his own flavor to make the time and space relative. He himself was so surprised by his own discovery, and he made a statement that the ground on which I am standing is beginning to shake. Is the fact time and space was relative, did Einstein create it? No. Even before, while we were all believing that time and space is absolute, what was the fact?
It's relative.
That it is relative. It doesn't depend upon my knowing or not knowing. It is a fact. This is why we call every knowledge as Vastu Tantra.
The one and only truth.
It is not dependent upon how I want it to be. This is how things are. Every knowledge takes place when I say what was considered as knowledge in Newtonian physics, which is time and space is absolute, was contradicted, and then what? Now what is the knowledge?
It's relative.
That it is relative. And it is knowledge because it is in keeping with what is. Right? So now, Einstein, did he make the time and space which were absolute into relative? No.
It's just discovered.
He only discovered this reality. How did he discover it? So many people experience the world. How come he got it?
This was not nuanced.
He looked into. He had that subtlety where certain truths which were not available otherwise, he was prepared and it was revealed to him not just randomly, but because of that genius and that hours that he thought about certain things of physics. Hours, his life was dedicated to physics and knowing the reality of this universe. Hours were spent. And this is what Viresh is saying. The Rishi spent hours figuring out the universe. And when Einstein figured it out, do you think that everybody else just accepted it as reality? No. What happened? He had to stand in front of the entire scientific community and convince them. People started questioning him. Right? And he had to what? Show that what he has discovered is uncontradictable. Then that became knowledge. Now, you and me, we can say, now you go and study physics in your school and you come to a certain level of college and the professor teaches you Einstein's vision, not vision, but the fact about relativity of time and space. You can say, but how did Einstein just figure it out? I also want to just figure it out by myself. Because he was able to figure it out, I don't need to come to the classroom. I can just sit and figure it out.
Lots of self-esteem and no brain.
Exactly. Lot of self-esteem and no brain. Right? Because not only Einstein figured it out, in order to show the entire scientific community, he developed a very sophisticated methodology to show them that what he has said is uncontradictable. Now, if you are smart, what would you do? You would use this methodology and help yourself. Exactly.
If you want to make a building, you don't find the rule of gravity. You have to make a building.
You don't reinvent the wheel.
You don't reinvent it. This knowledge, it was just as in any discovery, laws of gravity. The atoms were always falling, but nobody had discovered laws of gravity. The law of gravity, did Newton create it? No, it was already there. Vastu Tantra. His mind was prepared. He captured that reality, which was otherwise not, people's minds were not subtle enough to capture that reality. They had not thought about it adequately.
There are billions of things, there are no answers to this.
So,
And we may have not even discovered so much more.
exactly. So the only proof of Vedanta is that even when you engage in a dialogue with any thinker in the world, and if that thinker is open, there is no way that that person can contradict what Vedanta says. That is what gives strength to this knowledge. Nothing else can figure it out because every other knowledge is about drishya This is the knowledge about the Drik, the seer, and the whole scene is actually Mithya. The whole scene, universe, it depends upon the seer. And when you open your eyes, what do you see? You see only Drishya. And what happens? Your whole, if you're not thinking, this is why the Sthita Prajna is a clever person. This whole thing which fools us for lifetimes, he has what? Figured it out.
Thanks, thank God. And this teaching. You figured it out. It's a $1 billion thing.
Figured it out. Not fooled by impressions, perceptions, the immediate perceptions. Right? Now, this figuring out is not so easy because the first time when people listen to Vedanta, I love to look at their faces. They're all like, oh! Because, you know, everything else, as I told you, it ends in dharma. Dharma means how to be a good human being. How to have right attitudes, how to be compassionate, how to live your life meaningfully. Everything ends there. So when you go a little bit beyond that dharma, they have never thought about things like this.
But wouldn't you say then that Vedanta to some extent contradicts even Dharma because you moved beyond any judgment into pure observation?
Yes.
So,
No, 1 minute. So as I told you, Vedanta has two aspects. You have to be very careful. Up to now, what I am talking about is right now, I am talking about Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya is nature of Atma. If you really want to understand what is the nature of Atma, it is that awareness which is all pervasive and the entire universe depends upon that. That is the reality. But it is not always easy for people to understand that reality because they are operating within the world that they live in where, what are my concerns? Oh, how to send my kids to my school. I live in, it's like a frog in a well. My whole, for that frog, that whole universe is what? Confined to the well. So all my worries, all my concerns, all my stress are all within that well. Right? Now the frog is lifted from the well and said, hey, do you want to really know the nature of the universe? The universe, this little well is just such a tiny part of the universe. The universe is this vast universe, but the frog has never seen anything else but the well. The frog is afraid, wants to go back to the well, which is its comfort level. Comfort level of operation.
You are knocking with the comfort.
Exactly. I am making you go far beyond your comfort level. And that's why it is, for many people it's scary. People have all different kinds of reactions. Either they just negate it, this is all abstract, this is all just too vague, it's too, you know. Or they say, yeah, but how is it connected to my day-to-day living? So that means you only want solutions within your very narrowly defined universe.
You come out.
But if you really want to come out of this, you need to understand the totality of the picture. Because if you are the whole truth, the whole undivided by anything, the whole universe depends upon I, the awareness for its existence, and you localize awareness to that little thought that is there in your mind, what is the magnitude of mistake that you are making? What is the magnitude of mistake? It is unimaginable. exactly as big as the universe. And within keeping that mistake intact, you want solution. Because your comfort zone is within that mistake. And you try to fix it, and you try to fix it, and you try to fix it. But nothing really gets done. They can make some progress, but again,
Temporary happens.
temporary happens. Right? But what is now the next subsequent verses is not about this big vision. It's about how did this wise person really comprehend this reality without any weakness, without any confusion. Where do you understand any reality, whether it is about the object or about the subject? Where? In your mind. Mind is the only place where you can figure it out. Now imagine your mind is very gross and it's getting confused about small things. Can that mind dwell upon this reality and understand it accurately? No. It's impossible. Because your mind can only reach, your mind is only thought about, my education and my kids and my husband and my in-laws and my this thing. It is not thought about anything else. Or my business, anything. Just that's all. And within all the problems, all the challenges, all the, the messages we give ourselves, that's all I have been preoccupied with. Now that mind is just not subtle enough to understand this big vision accurately without superimposing some smallness onto it. So that means you need to prepare that mind for this knowledge. How did this person become wise and understood it all by preparing his or her mind? So that means the next set of verses are talking about that preparation. Preparation that is necessary, without which this vision will not exactly, will remain vague. So that means that Yoga Shastra, to deal with how did that person deal with that mind, with the sorrows of the mind, the anger of the mind, all that to become that wise person. So now, from next session, the whole shift takes place, which is how did that person prepare oneself to gain this knowledge with clarity.
Wasn't that Arjuna's question?
That also exactly will give us insight into, if I want to get this vision clearly, how I need to prepare.
You said Brahma Shastra is what we are doing.
Brahma Vidya
Yes, sir.
now we are moving into the topic of Yoga Shastra. How to prepare myself to know this.
So we take a break.
I think coffee.
Yes,
will help
now
us.
it's Om Purnamada Purnamudachyate